Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the GM, and today we're talking about the new Justice League. But before we get into it, smash like, make sure you're subscribed, and leave us a comment. We've got a great community here, and it's all thanks to you. So thank you so much for being here. With all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to this one takes place after the Crisis on Infinite Earths and after the Justice League of Detroit was disbanded. A man named Maxwell Lord reformed the Justice League, recruiting heroes like Animal Man, aka Buddy Baker, who's been a superhero for about 20 years now. Thankfully, he has the unaging of a Turritopsis Dornai, so he's still in fighting shape. Next is Aquaman 2, aka Arthur Curry Jr., the son of the original Aquaman. The former Aqua Baby is now college aged. Then we have Batman 2, aka Dick Grayson. This former Robin took over for his mentor once Bruce Wayne aged out of the role back in the Silver Age. Dick Grayson is in his 50s now, and his new sidekick is a Robin named Carrie Kelly. Next is Big Barda, former female Fury of Apocalypse. Then we have Black Canary, aka Dinah Queen, who is the Green Arrow's widow and the daughter of the Golden Age Black Canary. She, in turn, is the mother of Olivia Queen, who we'll talk about later. Next up is the Blue Beetle, aka Ted Cord, and Booster Gold, aka Michael John Carter, who are time travelers brought to the 1980s during the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Captain Atom 2, aka Nathaniel Adam, who, like Blue Beetle and Guy Gardner, used to be a hero in the 60s, was not brought here during the Crisis, though. He actually absorbed so much energy in the 60s that he was shunted forwards in time to the 80s. Next is Captain Marvel, aka Bill Batson, who, like Dick Grayson, is also in his late 50s now. Bill has been fighting crime since the Golden Age, and the older he is, the more time he spends in his superpowered form to try to stay young. Next is a rookie hero named Dr. Light, aka Kimiyo Hoshi, who only recently became a superhero. Then we have Elongated Man, aka Ralph Dibny, who's been fighting crime since the 60s. So by 1987, he's starting to slow down physically, but mentally, he's still one of the world's greatest detectives. Next up is the new Fate, aka Jared Stevens. The helmet of Naboo was recently shattered, and when the different time periods returned to their appropriate points in time, the various fragments of the helmet were scattered throughout the time stream. Multiple heroes recovered all the pieces, and Stevens has them, but thus far has not been able to put the helmet of fate back together again. So he uses one of those shards like a dagger. Fire, aka Beatrice DaCosta, joined the Global Guardians about 8 years ago, so she's still pretty young. In fact, like most female comic book characters, she's gorgeous. So Fire decided to use that to her advantage by becoming a supermodel. Next up is the newest Flash, aka Donald Allen, the son of Barry Allen, who in turn was the Silver Age Flash. Don took up his father's mantle when Barry vanished during the recent crisis. Then we have Green Lantern, aka Guy Gardner, who was Hal Jordan's backup in the Silver Age. Like Austin Powers, he's a fish out of water, and Guy is not a fan of how things have changed, making him the loudmouthed hothead of the team. Hawkman 2, aka Falandar of Thanagar, and Hawkwoman 2, aka Sharon Parker, are new replacements for the original Hawkman and Hawkwoman, and they too are young rookies. Ice, aka Tora Olafsdottir, is new at this as well, and she is as shy as Fire is outgoing. Fire is trying to talk her into modeling, but thus far, Ice won't do it. She's too introverted for that, unlike Fire, who's an exhibitionist. Then we have the Martian Manhunter, aka John Jones, and his daughter, Miss Martian, aka Kim Jones. They moved to Earth in the 1950s and have been fighting crime for decades. Neither of them age. Next is Mr. Miracle, the son of Highfather of New Genesis and the world's greatest escape artist. Then we have Power Girl, aka Kara Zor-El, the heroine formerly known as Supergirl. She arrived on Earth in 1959 and is married to the hero known as Superman Red. Rocket Red 1, aka Yosef Denisovich, is a member of the new Justice League because the USSR wanted the Justice League to represent all of Earth and not just America. Superman Red, aka John Redbridge, is an ancient alien who's been living on Earth for thousands of years and is responsible for various myths and legends. He's the husband of Kara Zor-El. Wonder Woman, aka Stephanie Stevie Trevor, is the daughter of Steve Trevor and the original Wonder Woman. Unlike her raven-haired mother, this Wonder Woman has blonde hair. So now that we're pretty much caught up, let's dive into the main plot, which takes place on August 16th of 1987 and starts with the Phantom Stranger appearing at the Justice League Embassy in New York City. He delivers a cryptic warning to the heroes. Danger seems centered around a ruined ancient Mayan temple. Batman 2 excuses himself from the investigations to deal with the situation in Gotham City, but asks the team to report in and keep him up to date on their progress. So the Justice League gets in Blue Beetle's bug and they travel to the ruined Mayan temple. Of course, characters who can fly, like Superman Red and Power Girl, fly under their own power. Once they reach the Mayan temple, the heroes search the place, and Elongated Man finds signs of a struggle. While here, the heroes also discern that an object of great importance was recently taken from its resting place. And Fate recognizes the mystic runes that adorn the Mayan temple. They are similar to runes found in the Book of the Lictors, an ancient magical tome in the Cambridge Library. So the Justice League decides to go check out the Book of Lictors, and Blue Beetle uses his bug's radio communications ability to contact Batman and tell him what they found. When the Justice League gets to the Cambridge Library, though, they are told that they're too late, and the book was destroyed mere moments before they arrived. Fire uses her sex appeal to talk with the male employees here, and they are overly eager to tell her anything she wants to know. So one of them points her in the direction of a scholar who was translating the book. So the Justice League meets with him and he shows them his notes. They contain a small portion of the text, fully translated. The heroes learn of the existence of something called the Vengeance Gate. Superman Red says the first piece of the gate must have been the item that was stolen from the Mayan temple. Martian Manhunter says it is imperative that the Justice League finds the other pieces before their mysterious adversary does. Elongated Man finds the next clue in the scholar's notes. It mentions a powerful oracle called the Rubabat, who used to be an ally of the Lords of Order. So Fate uses the dagger of Nabu and transports the Justice League to Rubabat's mystical dimension, where the heroes question him about the gate. Rubabat then asks the Justice League 3 riddles, the answers to which are the resting pieces of the remaining gate segments. The first riddle is as follows. These regal homes, once doted on, most often stand with knight and pawn. Know them as what a man calls home, with bannered tops and walls of stone. The heroes figure out that the first answer is a castle. The second riddle is as follows. Diamonds alias, fires reverse. This stuff can be a traveler's curse. To poets, a heart untouched by sun. In essence, a river that does not run. The answer to that one is ice. The third riddle is as follows. Behold the grandeur, the majestic sight. Naught else on earth can match their height. Bound in chains and shoulders shrouded, these monsters loom, their faces clouded. The answer to the final riddle is mountains. After deciphering the 3 riddles, the Justice League examines a map here in the mystical dimension and concludes that the remaining pieces of the Gate of Vengeance lie in Castle Vlastok in Romania, Point Montcliff in Antarctica, and the city of Bad Ernar in the Himalayas. So the heroes use Fate's dimension travel to return to Cambridge. Then from there, they fly to Romania, eventually reaching Vlastok Castle. The area almost looks like a postcard. The heroes make their way up to the castle, where Blue Beetle knocks on the door. Guy Gardner says they should just smash the door down, and Beetle says violence should be a last resort. Dr. Wertner answers the door, and Blue Beetle asks him about the piece of the Vengeance Gate. Dr. Wertner says what they seek might be in his lab, so he invites them in and leads them downstairs. Guy compares Dr. Wertner to Dr. Frankenstein, and Beetle scoffs at Guy Gardner. Then they enter the lab. 6 cadavers lie on 6 medical tables, and Guy smugly asks what that was Beetle was just saying. Their conversation is interrupted, though, by Dr. Wertner, who refers to the undead as his children and orders them to destroy the Justice League. This fight is ridiculously one-sided, though, as several members of the Justice League are able to take out a zombie in a single blow. Dr. Wertner himself attacks the Justice League with a chair, trying to hit them with it, and he too gets easily defeated. After that fight, a new group of villains teleport here. They include a couple mental patients from Bayside Mental Hospital who are possessed, a femme fatale, and a handful of demons. The heroes beat the demons and all the possessed humans, and during the fight, they learn that the demons answer to Wotan. Captain Marvel and Superman Red say that they fought Wotan during World War II and that he was killed. Fate suggests that when Wotan went to hell, he recruited these demons to serve him. And using the Gate of Vengeance as a literal doorway to hell, that must be how he's planning to return to the mortal realm. Ice gulps out of fear and asks if there's going to be an invasion from hell itself. And Martian Manhunter says, not if we can help it. Superman Red says stopping invasions from hell is about as Justice League as it gets. He also looks around the room with his X-ray vision and spots the piece that they're looking for locked inside of a big wooden treasure chest. So Guy Gardner blasts the chest and then grabs the piece of the Vengeance Gate using a glowing green hand. And with that, The heroes head out for the next location. So they fly to Point Montcliffe in Antarctica, which, according to the Martian Manhunter, isn't very far away from an ancient Martian colony called Zon-Zor, where the Martian colonists worshipped Hranmir, the Martian god of fire and death. And as such, many Martians fear fire, and it was the cause of their psychosomatic weakness to fire. So, in other words, because they thought they had a vulnerability to flames, they did. Martian Manhunter's daughter grew up on Earth, though, and her parents didn't teach her about Hranmir, so as such, she has no issues with fire, which is relevant because the temperatures in Antarctica are currently 75 degrees below zero. So the green haired supermodel known as Fire transforms, much like a green version of the Human Torch. Her green flames provide heat for those who need it, like Blue Beetle. Miss Martian walks relatively close to fire, while her father keeps his distance. Superman Red and Power Girl scout around using their flight and super senses, and they find a deep canyon that is about 50 feet across at the top and about 500 feet deep. The bottom, though, the canyon is only 3 feet wide. Power Girl finds the missing piece of the gate right away using her X ray vision. It is embedded in the ice in the bottom of the canyon. So she flies down and punches through the ice, recovering the missing piece. But the ice is also home to the last Slugoth, an 8 foot long, multi tentacled creature which grapples Power Girl with its many tendrils. And because this Lovecraftian horror is magical in nature, Power Girl's stats all drop to 4 APs. It attacks her with its 7 APs of strength, doing exactly 4 points of damage, knocking her out. Of course, Superman Red is not having this one bit. So he flies down, and since he's a different kind of alien, he doesn't have a weakness to magic. So he defeats the monster and rescues his wife, who he warms with low levels of his heat vision. They emerge from the ice canyon, and no sooner than they do, 4 more villains teleport to their location. 2 are inmates. One is Psychopirate, and the fourth villain is named Kenny Sherman. The heroes defeat the villains, and after the fight, Batman calls them via Blue Beetle's bug. Apparently, Booster Gold's agent called, and Booster is late for a convention appearance where he was going to introduce the new Booster Gold video game. He tells Blue Beetle they should swing by the convention on the way to the next piece of the gate. And while he's doing that, Booster tries to convince Blue Beetle that he also needs an 8-bit video game made about him, too. Blue Beetle turns down the offer, though, and more importantly, says the convention is nowhere near the next location. Superman Red suggests his wife fly Booster to the convention, and she asks why she should do that. Superman Red says she could use a little rest from her run in with that knockoff Cthulhu, and there probably aren't many Lovecraftian horrors at a Comic Con. Blue Beetle says Superman Red might be surprised, though. Power Girl says she doesn't want to spend any time at all with with Booster Gold because he won't stop staring at her chest. Guy Gardner says he figured that that boob window of hers was an open invitation to enjoy the view. Superman Red gets angry, and Gardner says if she was his wife, there's no way he'd let her walk out of the house wearing something as slutty as that. Fire gets furious and argues that just because the girls show a little skin, it doesn't make them sluts. Wonder Woman agrees with Fire, saying her costume is traditional Amazonian attire. And Superman Red tells Gardner to watch his mouth if he doesn't want punched out. Guy Gardner thinks he's calling Red's bluff, so Red punches him, doing 34 points of damage, which does knock out Guy Gardner. Green Lantern also takes knockback damage, crashing into the hull of Blue Beetle's bug, denting a wall. So Blue Beetle yells at Red, and Martian Manhunter tells everybody to get it together. This is supposed to be the Justice League, but instead they're all acting like children. Superman Red says Guy Gardner started it, and Manhunter says he doesn't care who started it. The fact is, they're the Justice League, and they need to learn to turn the other cheek. That said, Manhunter asks Power Girl to take Booster Gold to the convention, so she does. Booster stares at her chest the whole way there. Meanwhile, the rest of the Justice League fly to the Himalayas, where not too awful long ago, Cobra Law's ice dome was destroyed by the broadcast energy transmitter. They pass over the crater where Cobra Law used to be, and Captain Atom fills them in on what the military knows about the incident. As he does, they continue about their way. Time passes, and the Justice League finally approaches Ban Darnar, top one of the highest mountains in the world. The atmosphere is so thin that Blue Beetle's bug has trouble flying that high because there's not enough air to push off of to lift that much weight. So Superman Red flies the bug in with his bare hands. They are above cloud level, so there's no rain or snow here. The sun bakes down on the ruins of an ancient civilization. Humps and angles of stone haphazardly scattered are all that remains of a city that once flourished here. But sunburn isn't the only hazard here. Major disaster and two possessed inmates teleport in and a fight breaks out. And to make matters worse, the last piece of the Gate of Vengeance is in the center of a circle, and anyone who enters that circle falls victim to mind control, and they become the guardian of the gate. So they fight to keep others out of the circle. Guy Gardner's ring would be helpful right about now, but Gardner's still knocked out. Fate tries to use telekinesis, but Major Disaster knocks him out. Wonder Woman uses her lasso and she pulls the gate component out of the protective circle. Superman Red blasts controlled heroes with heat vision, declaring knockout damage only, and the knockback damage blows them out of the circle so they are no longer controlled. After the villains are defeated, they leave in Blue Beetle's bug, and not long after that, enemies called Trogs teleport into the bug and try to acquire the gate pieces. There are as many Trogs as there are heroes, and another fight breaks out. As before, the good guys win, but during the battle, Blue Beetle's bug is damaged a little bit more. Superman Red says he promises they'll repair the bug as soon as this mission is over, and he suggests they could even upgrade it using technology from Krypton or Mars or Themyscira, etc. But Blue Beetle seems like he wants to instead treat his bug like a classic car and restore it to its original condition. Batman radios the Justice League and asks how it's going. They tell him they have the pieces of the gate, and he says he's done some detective work on his end. And for some reason, inmates at Bayside Community Hospital are possessed by demons who are loyal to Wotan. He asks the Justice League to meet him there, so Blue Beetle sets a course for Bayside. When they arrive, they see Bayside is not exactly the ideal mental health establishment. The once stately building seems grimy and cluttered by the surrounding slums. Latter-day architectural additions include iron bars bolted to the windows on the top floor, where overflow cases from Arkham Asylum were housed. Blue Beetle's bug lands on the roof, and when the heroes enter, the facility seems to be deserted. Batman greets them and tells them he found something strange in the basement. So the Justice League takes the elevator to the basement, and when the doors open, they walk into a trap. They're attacked by more of Wotan's Trogs. The piece of the Gate of Vengeance that they stole from the Mayan temple is here. The heroes have the other three pieces of the gate. So the villain's plan is to put all four pieces together and free Wotan and his army of demons from hell. Then Wotan plans to conquer the earth. Superman Red multi-attacks the villains with 30 APs of heat vision, knocking out any humans who were possessed, while Guy Gardner, who is awake again, attacks one of the greater demons with his force manipulation, bashing him over the head with a glowing green cross. On Batman's turn, he activates a gadget, which turns out to be the power armor that we saw at the end of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns from 1986. It's the armor that in that comic Batman used to fight Superman. And this is when we find out that Batman is also possessed and wants to kill Superman Red. So he shoots Superman Red with a sonic beam designed to target Superman Red's sensitive hearing powers. The stone wall explodes and Superman Red is blown through it. Because this is a surprise attack, Superman Red is stunned for one round, so Batman goes again using his suit's super strength. He punches Red at a 45-degree angle, knocking him up and out of the adjoining sewer tunnel and onto the streets of Gotham City. Possessed Batman refers to this as the mission, and he throws around a lot of other sayings and quotes from The Dark Knight Returns. There's a lot of fan service during this fight. But he doesn't have plot convenience on his side this time. So on Superman Red's turn, Red flies straight up into the upper atmosphere, looks down with telescopic vision, then nukes Batman with 30 APs of heat vision. He uses sniper level precision and he literally melts the armor off of Batman. Batman would normally sub an Omni gadget to try to deal with something like this, but it's not Batman's turn. It's Superman Red's turn. And Batman's armor is ruined. And without the armor, Batman only has a body of 6. So Batman takes 41 points of damage. -6 would be death, but of course, as always, Superman Red declares knockout damage only. And while he's doing that, Wonder Woman uses her lasso on one of the other villains and learns what the plan is. Martian Manhunter says the heroes don't have a single good reason to allow the Gate of Vengeance to even exist. So Captain Atom crushes one of the stones. Fate uses the exorcism power to separate the demons from their hosts, then banishes them all back to hell with dimension travel. From hell, Wotan sees his plan has been foiled, and now there will be no doorway for he and his army to use. The demons also see this, and since Wotan won't be able to keep his promise to them, they all turn on him. Batman is no longer possessed by wrath and Ghast, so he apologizes to Superman Red for attacking him. Superman Red says he's not worried about it, and with all the other possessed people they had to fight in this adventure, he figured that was why Batman wasn't acting like himself. Having done that, Batman returns to the Batcave, and the Justice League goes to the convention where Booster Gold is. But none of the kids there care about Booster or his video game. Instead, they all want their picture taken with Power Girl for reasons. Which brings us to the epilogue. The Legion of Superheroes are having trouble with a villain called the Time Trapper. So they ask the Justice League for help. The League travels to the 30th century where Fate, aka Jared Stevens, encounters a device called the Miracle Machine. It is the evolution of a Green Lantern ring in that it uses willpower to turn thought into reality. So using the Miracle Machine, the pieces of the Helmet of Naboo are put together again. So for the first time, Stevens dons the helm and becomes Dr. Fate proper, complete with a blue and gold costume and cape. The Justice League offers to leave Booster Gold in the future, but Booster says he likes it in the 80s. He says the whole reason he went back in time was to get rich. And with that, Booster tells them they should swing by some libraries and museums while they're here so that they know what they should be investing in. Booster tells Beetle, for instance, that Cord Industries should release something called Windows, and that this thing called the internet is coming and it could make them all rich. Everyone groans, though, and the Justice League returns to August of 1987. And that was it for this one. This was a module for DC Heroes called When a Stranger Calls. We enjoyed playing it. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing about it. If so, as always, smash like, make sure you're subscribed, and leave us a comment. And from everyone here at the longest running superhero role-playing game on Earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.